A valuable lesson on this one. Never again will I ever do that, and I will fess up to my mistake. And I will apologize to all the people that were inconvenienced by this, and I apologize to the taxpayers that we have to pay this money out. But it was a debacle, and I'm still angry at Plain Township trustees.
I agree.
And that is on the record.
Occurred. So I think everybody realized that this was the best way to go and it was going to happen. So they came up with a number of what it was going to cost them. And, you know,
When did this all get started?
Oh, it's been 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
this was, yes, and it was a petition, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to go back to the file. It was filed by the Board of Trustees, Plain Township Board of Trustees, requesting official action by this board to vacate the street, right?
Yeah.
And they had every department head here, and they asked the sheriff's department to weigh in, and their street department, and this room was full. It was a cast of thousands, plus the neighbors immediately adjacent to the.
And neighbors were all complaining of how people were using the roadway?
Speeding, volume of traffic, the
Drug
fact
dealing,
that, trash everywhere.
Trash.
There were, you know, part of the arguments that were advanced were that the stores that had been there prior to Walmart were not of the volume and type and 24/7 type of operations that Walmart was, and because of that, it was just used as.
Well, how long's Walmart been there?
It's been there quite some time.
Yeah, so that's...
They said that it was increased activity, but I'm not sure what brought it up to the boiling point at this point in time, but apparently, you know, the word cut through was constantly used. But apparently, as came apparent later, other people just a little bit deeper into the neighborhood who were handicapped or just for whatever reason, convenience, used that as a matter of course, and it created in their mind
There was a
quite a bit
pastor
of hardship.
from one of the churches that came.
A
It was
pastor,
kind of
yeah.
So did the commissioners respond immediately and on the request and vacate the
They had a
roadway?
public hearing,
Okay.
which was the people required by statute to be notified were. There was, the whole room was filled, and I don't know that there was one negative voice raised against it until after it became clear to the neighborhood when the guardrail went up and fence.
Is that what you're referring to as the fence, the guardrail?
No, there's two things
Neighbors
happened.
put a fence up.
When the board did grant the request to vacate, and again, by unanimous request of Plain Township and the neighbors, immediate neighbors affected, Plain Township went out and erected a guardrail at the end of where this street, and I can't believe I forgot the name of the street, but the street that runs directly behind the Walmart. This street feeds to that street, so they put up a guardrail there. Then as time went on, the neighbors erected a vinyl privacy fence
I see.
beyond that same perpendicular way.
Didn't people try to cut a hole in it? And
There was some damage
there
to the
was
fence, I
some
think.
threats to the neighbors, and
So eventually there was an initiative back to the commissioners to reinstate the roadway?
Yes, so there was a pastor, and it kind of organically occurred. There was a pastor that lived in the immediate neighborhood, a lot of his parishioners, but then extended neighbors, and they went out and solicited support to, they called it reopen the road. The legalities of it was actually establishing a road, because once the road's vacated, there is no road, so to reopen.
Right.
So so how it had to happen mechanically is they had to officially request that the board establish a road in generally the same area where there was pavement, but now a fence across it. So
and the trustees at that point.
At that point, the trustees
said it's the commissioner's problem.
kind of backed away. I do think that they indicated that they stood by their initial decision, but there were quite a few more people that no one had seen before that were clearly in favor of that thing being reopened or a new road.
So really, one might surmise that the trustees didn't do their job in canvassing the complete neighborhood mix out there?
Well, I wouldn't characterize it necessarily that way. I would say that the legalities of who should receive notice or who had to receive notice was met. So when it was
Okay.
filed with this office notified those who legally had to be met. But it obviously became clear that when you cast a wider net, many more people were negatively impacted, as became clear, than just those technically needing to receive the notice.
On the timeline, how much after the road vacation were people in here asking commissioners to reestablish the road?
Well, I don't think it was long.
No, it was a couple, 3-4 months.
Yeah,
Once the fence went up and once the barricades went up, and that's when,
and that's my understanding. Things got fairly heated out there among the folks themselves.
Did it?
Yeah.
and then
So-
people were cutting through that nursing home parking lot, and, they're finding ways around it. And that increased the traffic and harm.
Was there another
You have
public?
to go up to Harmon and in, or down to.
Okay.
And again, these roads, I could have told you in my sleep 2 years.
Was there a public hearing on the second?
Yes,
Yes.
And the room
To
was filled.
reestablish, yeah.
the room was, in fact, it got moved upstairs.
Okay.
And it was clear that the vast majority of attendees at that public hearing wanted it open. And there were still some that wanted it shut. However, it was interesting, at that meeting, at least one couple that had originally been a proponent of shutting it, apparently things had gotten tense enough in the neighborhood that they, at least, I think maybe the husband and wife were split. One wanted it open and forget the whole thing and it's not worth it. And the other one just basically wanted left alone. So there was some movement even in the group of folks that, you would have seen that, like even the group of folks that had initially been for closing the road. So it was, I would say, a unique set of circumstances, Martin. I hadn't seen something.
Did the commissioners at that meeting vote to reestablish the
They did. It
road?
was a 2-to-1
2 to
vote.
1 vote. I
2 to 1
voted against
vote.
it.
Okay, Richard Regular voted against it. And Commissioner Regular, why'd you vote against it?
Because, Martin, we vacated the road on the request of the township trustees and the neighbors. And on principle, I didn't feel that the road we vacated and gave to adjacent property owners, we should turn around and buy back. That's not good use of the taxpayers' money. And so that's why I voted against it.
And you came pretty close to voting against the resolution today?
I did, and I probably should have, but I mean, it's the board had made a decision, and this just keeps the process moving forward. So I mean, I could ceremonially, I guess I said voted against it because it was going to pass one way or another. So
And we talked off camera a little bit. You agree with Commissioner Creighton that the commissioners owe the Stark County public an apology for what unfolded in this whole scenario? Okay.
yeah.